think we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture here, which is what was really going on with Epstein? Because Epstein was more than just a serial pedophile and a pervert. He was an incredibly powerful man who was, by the way, in multiple instances in the files that were just released, talking about his work for Mossad, talking about his work for the Rothschilds.
Good evening. This is February 28th, and I'm Janet McElligott in Los Angeles, California. The United States attacked Iran. The reasoning President Donald Trump gave for the attack was initially to stop Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. And then it became regime change. And as soon as the United States could defeat them completely, he said to the Iranian people, this is your country to then control. But the Senate Democrat ranking member, Jack Reed, said, the White House thinking on this is a complete mystery. Prior to the attack on Iran, and even prior to the attack on Venezuela, when an American government, especially a president, attacked a country, there were often months of discussion leading up to an attack. Take the Gulf War, for instance, in Iraq. There were questions of weapons of mass destruction. There was great debate in the United States Senate and in the House of Representatives, because Congress is the one that can declare war, not the U.S. president.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if
إيران هي اللي دعمت الغزو الأمريكي للعراق.
طيب إيران طيب
حتى تكسر العراق وحتى هي تحتل بالنتيجة.
طيب
هذا اللي حصل.
طيب.
So what are the regional and what are the global implications for this unprecedented attack on Iran? My personal opinion is that this has been Benjamin Netanyahu's wet dream, and he looked at President Trump as his last chance to finally get after Iran.
دونالد ترامب على زعامته التاريخية هو زعيم يقف خلف كلماته، وأنا أبارك التعاون الذي قاد إلى هذا التحالف بين الولايات المتحدة وبيننا للسلام، حلف للسلام والحرب، وهذه الحرب ستكون إلى سلام حقيقي. خلال 47 سنة دعا النظام الإيراني إلى موت أمريكا، هو استباح دمنا وقتل الكثير من الإيرانيين وأجرم بحق شعبه. اليوم كلهم يدركون من المحظور أن يبقى هذا النظام وأن يتزود بسلاح نووي يمكنه تهديد وجودنا وأيضا سلامة البشرية جمعاء. نحن حذرنا أننا يجب أن نقتلع هذا الوضع من الأساس ونزيل هذا التهديد. في اليوم الثاني للحرب النهضة وعدتكم نحن سنغير وجه الشرق الأوسط. كنا في هذا في حرب كالأسد ونكون بذلك الآن وفي هذه العملية أيضا. هذا اليوم بهجمة مفاجئة وقوية وجهنا ضربة للدكتاتور خمينئي والذي على مدى عقود هذا الإنسان القاسي المتوحش هو استغرق كل الوقت من أجل بناء خطة لإبادة إسرائيل. هذه الخطة لم تعد موجودة، والكثير من المؤشرات أن هذا الدكتاتور أيضا لم يعد قائم، لم يعد موجود.
What does this mean for both the region, both in terms of today for the public, for the United States, and for Israel, and for Sudan? Let's talk about, but not alive and well are going to be, in my opinion, the United States' relationships with the Gulf, and I'll explain why. Right now, the United Arab Emirates on the Corniche in Abu Dhabi, the windows are shaking from the bombing and the retaliatory strikes from Iran. Jebel Ali port apparently is reportedly on fire, and the Al Dhafra Air Force Base is under fire.
Final boarding, Doha, Gate 12.
The only positive I can take from that at the moment is that the United Arab Emirates will not be able to send weapons into the RSF, which could turn the war in favor of the Sudanese army. This is early in the days of what could be a very protracted war, because the United States has moved 50% of our military into that region and has been repositioning the ships as well as airplanes for the last couple of months since the initial hit from the president. What is highly disturbing as an American is that there is no true explanation that makes any sense to me as to why we have done this. It also does not make any sense that the White House has not issued a plan. What are we hoping to achieve in concrete terms? How long are we going to be doing this? How much money are we going to put forward in this plan or lack of plans? The last time we did this was Afghanistan, and the time before that was Vietnam. Will Iran become another Vietnam? Will it become another Afghanistan where the United States puts its tail between its legs and runs the other way? But like I said, the only good thing that I see coming out of this at the moment could be in the favor of the Sudanese. But for right now, I don't see a plan coming out of the White House. I only see bombs. Thank you.
I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, "this is a good one." Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted.
You know,
so what are we
Estrada,
talking about? Convict
Texas,
some of these perpetrators
homicide.
that rape these women that are sitting behind you, that you refuse to even acknowledge they are here.
Texas, convicted of homicide. Cecil Joseph, from Dominican Republic. Texas, convicted for kidnapping, rape. Khalid Khan, from Afghanistan. That's why they want to talk about Epstein and not what's happening in their own states.
The FBI has identified 187 Mossad agents in the United States, not declared to the U.S. government, spread all around the country to steal our defense secrets. And I raised my hand. I said, why? We give them 99% of our defense secrets. And he said, exactly. They're here to steal the last 1%. And that's what they do. The Israelis are not friends of the United States. Jonathan Pollard was an American Navy analyst, Navy intelligence analyst. Yeah. He was also Jewish, and the Israelis recruited him to give them top secret information on the Soviet Union. But the Israelis gave the information to the KGB, and in exchange, the KGB allowed the Russian Jews to emigrate to Israel. So Pollard was arrested. He was charged with espionage, convicted. Yeah. And spent 30 years in prison. He did the whole 30 years. And then when he got out, Sheldon Adelson, a rich American Jew, provided his private jet, flew Pollard back to Israel. He was met at the airport by Benjamin Netanyahu. When he got off the plane, he kissed the ground in Israel. And Netanyahu gave him Israeli citizenship. And now he's running for the Knesset. Wow. Mm-hmm. Anybody else would have died in prison, or eventually would have been the subject of a prisoner exchange. He was one of the most damaging spies in American history. And now he's seen as some kind of a hero, which makes me... We don't accept gifts anymore from the Mossad. Because every gift they gave us had listening devices built inside. And we x-ray everything. We would say, guys, you have to stop trying to bug our conference rooms. We hate it. And we catch you every single time. So Mossad, for the last 40 years now, Mossad has not been allowed inside CIA headquarters. We meet with them outside in a private office because we can't trust them. They're constantly trying to bug us, constantly trying to recruit our people. I said, my name is John Kiriakou. I was overt, not undercover. So I said, my name is John Kiriakou, and I'm going to brief you on Saddam Hussein's psychology. And the Shin Bet guy, he has his glasses like this, and he says, spell your name. So I spell it, which made me angry. And then he says to me like this, you are Jewish? And I said, I am not recruitable. Don't even think about trying to recruit me. I was enraged. So afterwards, everybody was laughing. And they said, they've done that to all of us. Every one of us. My boss said, how did it go? And I said, I'm so mad right now. And he said, Mossad tried to recruit you, didn't they? And I said, yes. He said, they do that to everybody. They're just crude about it. Obscure pro-Israel journal, scholarly journal, published an article written by the Israeli foreign minister's political director, in which he said that I was a noted anti-Semite. Noted anti-Semite. Now, this is something they do on purpose. If you don't toe the Israeli line, you're anti-Semitic, even though you're not.
Yeah.
Or in the case of any Arab, actually very Semitic, because you're Arab. So, people like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was named a couple of weeks ago as the anti-Semite of the year. I know Tucker. He's a friend of mine. There's not an anti-Semitic bone in his body. This idea around the United States that has taken hold, that if you're not pro-Israel, like somebody asked me this the other day, are you pro-Israel? And I said, no. You're with the Iranians? It's like, what? No. No. I'm not with the Iranians. Like, what's wrong with you? Or, you're with Al-Qaeda? No, I'm not with Al-Qaeda. Are you crazy? I just don't think that the Israeli policy of killing everybody is a viable policy. You know, you can't have undergone a terrorist attack and then have your policy as to kill every man, woman, and child who breathes in Gaza. That's not a policy. That's a genocide. There are very clear laws about this, to which the Israelis, by the way, happen to be signatories. You cannot kill civilians. And they do it every single day. Literally every single day.
Mossad, were they involved?
My own personal belief is yes. Not necessarily in a direct way. We've all heard the story of the dancing Israelis.
Yeah.
They were arrested and they were held for
So for context, for the listener.
Yeah. So there was a van load of Israeli citizens that were arrested in New York City several days before 9/11. They were taking pictures of the World Trade Center. But they were doing it in this odd way and taking pictures of other sensitive targets in lower Manhattan. It's not a crime to take pictures in the United States. And so they were eventually released. They were all Israeli citizens. And they kept saying, we're the good guys. We're the good guys. We're Israelis. We're with you. They were released. But then on 9/11, there was a larger group of Israeli citizens who were dancing in the streets, right? Because we had been attacked. Now, they knew, the reason why they were dancing is because they knew how the United States would react.
So they were celebrating the reaction.
They were celebrating the reaction. We're going to go out and we're going to kill 1 million Muslims, which is exactly what happened. The number may be 2 million.
Даю прогноз, все остальные молчат. Ну что будет сейчас? Задавайте вопросы. Я же уеду скоро. У вас не будет шанса узнать правильный ответ на ваши вопросы. Потом через 20 лет скажете, о, Владимир Владимирович нам тогда еще говорил, как надо было поступить. А мы не поступили. Значит, какой у них план? Еще они должны 7 стран арабских оккупировать, разгромить Сирию и силовым ударом разрушить Иран. Кто в этом случае является детонатором, или вернее даже допингом? Откуда идет, как говорится, вот, напор против Ирана? Арабские страны, как бы они, силовую демократизацию, на самом деле взять под контроль все энергоносители. Потому что будущий кризис, он уже идет, собственно, он не будущий. Америке надо ослабить Китай. В случае удара по Ирану цены на нефть взлетают $200 за баррель. Китайская экономика не выдержит. И Евросоюз не выдержит. То есть ударом по Ирану Америка ослабляет Евросоюз и Китай. Но остается Россия. А как ее ослабить? Беженцы из Ирана могут двигаться только на север. На юг Сирия, проамериканский режим будет уже установлен. На юг Ирак воевали. Много лет они враждуют. Только на север, тем более коридор азербайджанский.